Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of American Rust. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This is an episode of When It Rains, It Pours. So the fact of the matter is, Grace, things are actually kind of looking up for Grace because she's able to kind of convince a lot of the other ladies at work to unionize, because it's like my lawyer told me, like, if any of you are worried about our boss like screwing with your status and stuff like that, then like she's like, we'll go after him hard in that regard. But it's like, right, the only way we can ensure that we're able to like make the money and get the actual health care we need, because obviously their work is taking its major toll on not only Grace but everyone else as well. But it's like, yeah, everyone decides they're going to unionize, but then immediately afterwards, the police show up because they're looking through Billy's stuff. Obviously, last episode, what was the dude's name? Bobby or whatever, ended up saying that Billy was there at the scene and stuff like that. So they start ripping through his stuff. Obviously, Grace calls up Dale, like, what the hell is going on? Because Dale has been trying to, like, find out, like, what's going on. Because he got Steve to talk to that guy to be like, oh, how long is he going to be, like, out there? And he's like, I don't know. Because that guy that they were talking to, trying to, like, sweeten it. Because at first I was like, oh, is he just watching? It was like, no, he sent Steve there. But it's like, yeah, it's just trying to get a lay of the lands. But the guy's out of the loop about what's going on. That's why I'm still, like, I guess, like, there's probably always someone sitting on the crime scene, so Dale probably still hasn't had an opportunity to go in there and get Billy's jacket. So it's still a very pertinent piece of evidence, because once again, not only is it proof that Billy was full-blown there, aside from Bobby's testimony, it proves that Billy was there because it is his jacket. But also it has Dale's fingerprints on it, so they're doubly screwed if it comes down to that. So I think that's what it's kind of waiting for, like, but also trying to get a lay of the lands of the case in general. But he, like I said, he gets a call from Grace, and the moment he shows up, he's telling Frank, like, what the hell, like, why not, like, I'm the sheriff of the town, at the very least you'd have the courtesy to come in and, like, let me know what's what. It's like, yeah, but Sue Hurwitz said, like, yeah, you're kind of out of the loop on this. And he was like, fuck Sue Hurwitz. He's like, not even with your dick. But it's just like, yeah, because it's like, right, you already got in her way when it came to Billy beforehand with, like, everything 6 months ago. So it's like, right, you're dating, like, his mom and everything. So it's like, no, you're getting cut out of this. And he's just like, I'm not trying to screw you over or anything, Dale. Like, we're good. But it's just like, this is the way things have got to be. So Dale's just going to have to, like, sit back and just kind of take things as they are. So he ends up tracking down Billy at Lee's place, which he's been helping out with Henry. And I think that's so interesting. Like, he doesn't have as much of an issue with Billy looking after him, but he has more of an issue. I guess he was fine with Isaac as well. I think it's just like, right, having a lady be the one to take care of you, specifically your daughter, because I think it's just like that male ego thing of, like, feeling fragile in front of a woman. It's like, you rather, like, a guy is one thing, like having your bits out and flipping and flopping around, but like, I guess, like, it's a little different when it's a girl, especially when it's your own daughter. It just makes things a little weird. So I guess that's why he's been so, like, defensive about, like, no, I can do it. Like, I think he just doesn't want to seem helpless around his daughter. But yeah, Dale rolls up and talks to Billy about everything. It's like, right, okay, so have you talked to your mom? It's like, okay, they're running through your place. Will they find anything? He's like, no, there's, like, nothing there. He's like, there's always going to be something to find. And sadly, they do. Because Billy got rid of the shoes he was wearing. He didn't get rid of every other pair of shoes that he got. He should have. Dale only told him to get rid of, like, the ones he was wearing. That's enough, but it is still a thing of, like, right, we're a size 14, which the shoes he's wearing are 14. Sadly, every other pair of shoes he's got are 13. Nothing tying him to the crime scene directly, but it still puts him on a suspect list being a size 13. So, because you would think, like, there was nothing concrete enough to, like, draw them towards Billy anyway, at least nothing that they're aware of yet. Like I said, the jacket, but they had Bobby's testimony and stuff like that, which that was even the thing of, like, Dale being like, you didn't even bring the guy in, like, how can you corroborate what he said and stuff like that. But obviously his story kind of fits with which we'll get to later, about, like, Billy's the status of, like, his hands and stuff like that in conjunction with the wounds that Pete suffered. But essentially, like, Della's telling him, do not tell your mom anything. Like, you're taking a vow of silence. The only person you're talking to is either me or a lawyer. The fact is that Della's going so above and beyond. And that's what I'm saying. Like, would he be really giving Billy such leeway? Like, would anyone else in town get the same leeway? Or is it only because you're dating Grace and you feel obligated to do that? Or do you legitimately, at the bottom of your heart, just like, no, like, maybe Del does see a lot of himself in Billy and he doesn't want Billy's life to kind of get turned upside down. I've always and still continue to lean more towards, it's because you're dating Grace. Even if you had those altruistic thing of like, right, you see a little bit of yourself in him, it will always be from the lens of, no, you're dating Grace. And so Billy ends up going home and he's doing a lot. He's not talking to his mom about things, but he is like chopping wood and doing everything. Even she's like, why are you acting like, what kind of trouble you in? Let me help you. He's like, you can't help me. I've got to like figure this out on my own. But she's like, why are you doing so much stuff ahead of time? Like you might be gone for a very long time. And he's not talking about it, but it's like either he's going to have to disappear or there's a good chance he will get arrested and go to jail. And so he wants things to kind of be okay, like his, things set up that his mom won't be able to do for herself because of her hand. So he's already kind of setting that all up. Because later on, Lee meets up with her friends again, and they're like, oh, look at you in town and stuff like that. When we going to meet that husband of yours? And then they're like, oh, you're meeting up with Billy. It's like, oh, it's just for drinks. It's like, okay, sure, that's why you didn't bring your husband to town. But then, like, one of her friends is like, oh, like, I'm a caretaker, like, so I can look after your dad. It's like, it doesn't have to be, like, a 24-hour thing, just, like, a little help here and there. She's like, yeah, like, you can cut out, like, the middleman just because, like, if you pay me directly type of situation. And it's like, she just feels a little weird asking her friend out because, like, she had already set stuff up with her dad about, like, got the place modeled up so that it'll be easier, like, for his condition and stuff like that to get around. Like, we see, like, ramps and stuff like that installed. But even asking, like, oh, he just wants Billy, once again, it's like, he's denying, like, the nursing help and stuff like that. I wonder, is it because he doesn't want to take the chance that it might be a lady that looks after him? Like I said, I don't know if it's just, like, his, like, stubborn pride as a man. Like, oh, I gotta be a masculine man. I can't be weak and fragile around a woman. Like, maybe there's something there. Like I said, I don't know. But it turned out, like, she's like, we wouldn't be in this situation if you just used the money I'd given you. And he was like, that money was for you. And she's like, what? He's like, in case things didn't work out, which for her, it's like, oh, because of the background I come from, this town and everything, living in that, like, higher society type of thing, you figured I wouldn't. He's like, no, that's not what it was about. Like, just, you never know what life has in store for you. He's like, I'm a living proof of that. Like, anything could happen. He's like, I want you to have, like, a net saved up. And then she's like, yeah, but that net wasn't meant for me. It was meant for Isaac to give him a break. Now he's gone and found his own way to freedom, the only way he could. So it kind of puts things in perspective. It is kind of effed up. It's like you were saving that money up, not for Isaac, but for Lee, which is super messed up. It's almost like, I think that probably makes him feel, that would probably make him, because I was wondering, like, where did the rest of the cash go? Like, I didn't realize, like, I guess, like I said, I guess all that money he had taken that was in the envelope was the money, either he does have it stashed away somewhere else, or that was all the money that she's been sending the entire time, just in one envelope in one place. I thought that was just, like, this month's money that she sent. Like, I was confused on that part, but regardless, it's like, it is kind of messed up to know, like, rather than, like, oh, giving it to your son, like, that he, it's just interesting that Lee will always be on the forefront in his mind in that regard, because even he does ask Billy about Isaac. He even says, like, yeah, it is kind of messed up that Isaac took the money. Now we have more context to why he did that, though, like, why he believes that, because it's like, taking the money is a bad thing to do regardless, but it's also because it's like, it was supposed to be her safety net, So it's like, you were stealing not only from me, you were stealing from your sister. It's, I think, how Henry views it. But like I said, that was kind of his main concern. It's kind of like the saddest thing, like, because he's asking about Isaac where he could be, but it's like, he's not as worried as Lee is to some extent. Because I guess for him, it's just kind of something like, no, he'll be home. It'll be fine. But it's like, more and more times passing, it seems less and less likely, so. I also really appreciate that line from Lee's friends, like when she goes to talk to Billy, and they're like, one of them turns to the other, like, we're never going to meet that husband. I'm like, I just love that little line. But eventually, Billy does talk to her about things, and we get the full context of everything, and it is kind of what I believed it to be, that he wasn't the one that actually killed Pete. It was actually Isaac trying to protect him, because Pete was, to be fair, like, Billy let his anger get the best of him. He saw an opportunity. It's like, right, Pete's not a cop anymore. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have a badge. You'll have your boot to my back. Like, if I cause a scene there, like, I get myself in more trouble because you're a cop. Not a cop anymore. I can kick your ass now without reservation. So, like, that's what he went in there to, like, fight. And obviously, Bobby had a knife to his throat like them after he was beaten up on Pete a little bit, but then he got the best of Bobby as well. But that's why Bobby didn't see Isaac, is because he was too busy like recovering from like Billy hitting him, and so that's why he brought up Billy being at the scene, but not anyone else, because he didn't see Isaac. Isaac bashed in. I mean, I say back, but like, I mean, from one perspective, yeah, he did, but it was just mainly because it was like a one hit. And he did that to protect Billy, and they ran. And obviously, like, Billy trying to reflect that, he's like, it wasn't Isaac's fault, it was mine. Like, I'm the one that started the fight. Isaac just trying to protect me. So I won't say anything to anyone about Isaac. Like, he should have long been gone, but like, you know, his life is worth more than mine. The fact is, I care about him, so I don't want him to go down for this. So I won't say anything, but because I'm also not going to say anything because I love you. Once again, kind of very similar to the Grace and Dale situation. It's like, but are you only looking out for Isaac because you love, because you love Lee? Because once again, he thought that was the premise of their entire friendship. It's like, right, you're only friends with me because you love my sister. Like, that's all it is. You know, it's like, he brought it up in the first episode, like, why are you still hanging around me? Like, Lee's been going for years. Like, you don't have to be my friend, you know? So, but obviously, Lee's not, what you want me to think, like, oh, you're a hero or something, because you're not, you know, it's like, you're worthless, like, basically, like, you, like, drag down the people around you, essentially, like, I mean, she has every right to feel that way. It's like, because you've known the entire time I've been scared about where Isaac is, now I don't even know where he is, and you're the root cause of him disappearing like that, so, don't come near me again, and so, everything's falling apart. He goes back home, pitches a tent, because it's like, well, my mattress has been sliced up, so I can't necessarily sleep there. But we do see Lee text him later on saying, do you have a lawyer? Because her friends had thrown it out there before she found out about things from Billy. It's like, right, oh, Billy, you know, he's luckily you're a lawyer. And she's like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm still in school. But she has the connections necessary to get him a lawyer if need be. So at least he's got 3 people on his side. His mom, Lee, as well as Dell, like, all, you know. But we do see Dell is paying attention, because he kept trying to be like, because at first he asked Billy, like, was Billy there to, like, buy drugs or something like that, or, you know, was he, like, mixed up in all of that, buying or selling drugs? And Billy's like, here's my thing. It's like, yeah, it shows that my piss was clean. And he's like, all right, good, this is a good report card, I'll hold on to it just so you don't end up losing him. So what ends up happening, though, is, like, later on, he's, like, Virgil's there talking to him about, like, right, what my boy's mixed up in. It's like, yeah, they're building a case against him for Pete. And he's like, damn, just, like, do whatever you can to, like, but obviously, like, Dell is on the outside of this case. He's been outed because of Sue. So we do see later on, like, he is staring at that pill he's still holding onto his contact lens, because I guess he's, like, still trying to figure out probably, like, where, I mean, I don't know whether he's still trying to think whether or not Billy's in the middle of this drug-related stuff. But like I said, like, I think Pete was, like, just a byproduct of something else going on. Like, obviously there's a Bobby thing, but, like, I still believe the doctor that's supplying him with his own meds, I think that guy's, like, the main drug dude in town. Maybe that's not the case, but it's just, like, I've been feeling that way for a while. We'll see whether, I mean, he pops up, he's only made 2 appearances so far in the show. He's only in, like, what, 2 scenes in, like, general. The scenes are about, like, maybe, what, 2 or 3 minutes at most, maybe. So I don't know, we'll have to wait and see, but it's just, like, the fact is he's focusing on that pill, and then just, like, at the same time focusing his own pills. Like, I don't know if he's drawing some correlation there, but we already know his situation with his pills, like, how he slices him up. Obviously, in some cases, he slices him up, others he's not, because he's really stressed the hell out because of all of this, so. He does get a call later on from Frank, being like, I'm gonna give you the heads up, because he talked to Sue Horowitz, because it's like, they don't know where Bobby is. Like, he could have gone this direction. Like, the second cell tower that pinged, it's like, he could have been here or there. It's like, this is a byproduct of you, like, pushing things in the spotlight, taking pictures at, you know, Pete's funeral and stuff like that. It's like, because you've drawn so much attention to this, there's, like, so much heat. But she's like, I can handle the heat. But it's like, they've got the shoes from Billy, but none of them match the crime scene. He has tools, they've been used, but we'll have them test it. But, like, even Frank's like, I don't think these are necessarily the murder weapons. So, like, Sue handling the case the way she has been has kind of, like, screwed it over to some extent. But Frank is able to get Dale some leeway. It's like, you could be the one to bring him in. You've got 12 hours to bring the kid in, essentially. So Dale's got to decide what to do from there. Like I said, luckily he's in a situation where, like, Lee's not a lawyer enough to represent him, but she knows enough people, has enough connections to potentially get him a lawyer, maybe. I don't know. Because it also comes down to, like, who's going to pay it. Is Dale going to pay it? Which I feel like that'd be considered, like, a conflict of interest. Which, speaking of Dale, too, we do see, like, he gets blown up from Pittsburgh, which I'm like, I'm assuming the specific person that's calling him is a person that the specific, like, it was probably his partner being like, hey, the partner that told him, like, hey, like, we do this for you, you do this for us in the future. Like, he's probably the one that specifically told Dale to have an alibi at the time we deal with this guy. So it's probably that person in particular. He's like, oh, take a hint because I keep ignoring your call. It probably not. That's probably going to rear its ugly head sooner rather than later. Like, either that person is going to come to Buell himself. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But it continues to be, it's this little background thing that I think is going to come a little further to the forefront as the season progresses. So, like I said, I think they're going to create this parallel of, while everything's happening to Billy, there's going to be, like, all this stuff for Dale, like all that Dale's trying to do for Billy, like, all of a sudden, like, his past is going to come back to haunt him, where I think they're just going to draw parallels to those stories with we'll see. But aside from all of that, we do check up with Isaac. He was sleeping, but then, like, the police raided the place, so him and JoJo ended up escaping, which she was like, yeah, never sleep in a place where there's only one exit. But they kind of hit it off immediately. Obviously, he says, like, oh, my name's Billy Poe, and she can kind of see him for who he is, too. It's like, oh, like, because it's like, right, the boxcar thing, it's like, you never want to do that, because, like, the moment the train starts moving, that's when people kind of come out. So she's kind of giving him the little lay of the land. She can kind of see his situation immediately, see him for him, because she's basically like, you know, queer recognized queer type of thing. So it's like, you know, I see you. Because even being like, yeah, your shoes are not runaway shoes. He doesn't have any money. He's like, did you get jacked on a boxcar? He's like, yeah, something like that. Don't want to admit that all the money you had, you gave back. So, not really going into the circumstance. But I think that's also the thing for JoJo, too. It's like, yeah, your reasons are your reasons. It's not my business to, like, be all up in your business. We do know she's got a girlfriend in Vegas waiting for her, Zoe. Which I'm like, is that going to turn out to be something? I mean, hopefully it's just going to be like a thing of like, oh man, this leads to a happily ever after. But I'm also like, I'm scared that this story is going to go super wrong. Just because it's like anything could happen when you're like on the road in streets. Like, I feel like anything could happen. I'm just like, I feel like Isaac could come out of this okay. I'm just scared for JoJo. But I'm also like, the Zoe thing, I'm like, the fact is we're getting one side of the conversation. Part of me is like, I mean, it's just like, oh, you're in love and you've got something like, rather someone waiting for you. I'm just like, you can't help but be a little, like, apprehensive about it. You're like, JoJo seems like above board. Like, JoJo seems pretty tight, but it's like, I don't know, man. It just, that Zoe thing just seems a little weird. Like, there might be something there. Maybe not. Like I said, maybe I'll be copacetic. Maybe everything will be fine. But essentially, you know, JoJo's giving him the lay of the land. It's like, is that bandana thing real? That's crazy, because it's like, yeah, this means this. It means, like, this means that you're down for, like, blowjob, getting your ass eaten. And I was like, and it's like, you know, what are you down for? He was like, I forgot how he phrased it, and JoJo's like, why you say it like that? She's like, that's not even grammatically correct. But it was basically like, are you down for, like, getting a hand job or giving one? Which he's like, either or. Also, like, you know, like food diving from dumpsters. It's like, right. I love that whole conversation about, yeah, that study people. It's like, yeah, I'm sure there was a peer review for the study people. She's like, yeah, you know what? Fuck them. It's like, fuck people. And he's like, yeah, you know what? Fuck people. Like, so they're kind of on that same wavelength. They were able to get someone to take them to, like, Dayton, Ohio. Kind of love the whole thing of, like, yeah, we're trying to get to, like, Vegas. That's where my mom is. Well, I'm not going to Vegas. I'm going to Dayton, Ohio. That's where my mom is. Don't you say she was in Vegas? She moved recently. So I thought that was... But it was also, like, she kind of got a little upset the moment Isaac was, like, talking to the drug driver, because she was like, don't talk about me like you know me. It's like, Isaac was like, I didn't mean no disrespect. But I guess it's like... JoJo's like, don't kind of, I guess it was like more so like, don't speak on my behalf. Like, I guess they were getting chummy, like, talking about, it's like, oh, take care of that situation. Like, don't worry about it. It's like, I guess he got a little too lax, and it just, I guess, like, she's very like, we don't really know each other like that, so don't talk about me like you do know me or my situation. So, I mean, because because all she said was, like, rather than kind of paying for, like, a long trip there, she's just gonna, like, just take the road there. So I'm like, but it's just like, is JoJo running from something specifically, or is it just like, no, I'm gonna meet up with my girl and I'm gonna do it my way? You know, even it takes a while. Like, I'm gonna do it my way of, like, not having to pay for, like, a plane ticket or, like, something like long term like that. That would be pretty expensive. It's like, no, let's just kind of see how things, like, take the road less traveled there, you know, type of situation. So they end up getting $40 from a dude that Isaac was supposed to, like, I thought was supposed to just stop with a hand job. It's like, oh no, but it's for a blow job. But luckily JoJo had his back, which I think is so interesting, because it's like, he was in a position to do that for Billy, but I guess maybe in his mind too, it's like, Billy didn't have my back. Like, yeah, he set me up with all of this, but he was so busy, like, having sex with my sister. Like, you know, it's just like, he kind of got what he wanted out of it, so had even less reason to stick around anymore. Because it's like, oh, like, now that you and Lee have met up, it's like, right, like, because once again, he just always believed, like, you're only friends with me because of the whole Lee thing. It's like, now that you have her, it's like, you kind of don't need me around anymore, I guess. So it gave him an extra reason to leave. But maybe now, having the context of it, like, maybe he wanted to leave because it's like, right, I don't want to screw up what you have. It's like, you are happy, and just me being around would probably draw too much to you and Lee. So maybe he was looking out for both of them. I don't know. You don't fully know everything that's in Isaac's head. But I think it's just interesting that JoJo had his back in that regard of just, like, I mean, that was a plan, like, to jack the dude anyway. But luckily they were able to find a place, and because Isaac can speak Spanish, he was able to convince the guy to give them a room. But obviously Isaac, you know, opened up to JoJo about his mom, about her walking, because he had wondered, like, he had brought that up, like, earlier in the like the first episode, I think, about whether or not his mom's death was, like, accident, like, whether she intentionally did that, or whether it was like someone killed her to make it look like, you know, he was wondering about that. But he opens up to her about it, and so they creating a nice bond. But even to the point, like, when he wakes up, like, he didn't see her. Even I was like, oh, did she, like, leave? I was like, are you worried that she jacked your stuff? But he goes outside, and she's sitting outside talking to Zoe. He's like, yeah, he's smart, but I don't think he's, like, he's smart but useless or something like that. And he's like, oh yeah, like, you got something to say? He's like, I thought you were going. She was like, that's kind of fucked up that you believe. Like, I told you, like, I'd get you to Nevada, didn't I? So trust me. And it's Billy, and he's like, no, my name's not Billy, my name's Isaac. She's like, right. She's like, right on. Trusting people. Now that's how you make friends. It's like, all right, time to go to school. You know, kind of giving him, I think, more lay of the lands of how things, you know. And it's like, you know, Isaac along this way, I don't know. I'm curious, like, is that school even something he's even interested in? Like, California is the end goal, but it might beyond that, it's like, he hasn't really thought about, like, I mean, you know, it's like he doesn't have anyone waiting for him to school. He doesn't really have the money to pay for it. So I'm like, what is he going to do? What JoJo is teaching him on how to get by, I think that's going to matter. I think eventually, like, Isaac's going to get arrested or something. Like, something's going to go wrong, and eventually, like, word about it's going to, like, I guess Lee's going to find out and probably, like, fly out or use her husband's connections to try and, like, money or connections to, like, fly Isaac back home. So I think that's where we'll potentially find things. Hopefully it isn't a sad situation where it's like Lee ends up, losing her brother. Like he dies on the road or something like that. And then like he gets identified and it's like eventually it comes back to her and maybe that screwed things up between her and Billy. Like her helping Billy might kind of go to the wayside the moment something happens to Isaac. We don't know, like that's still a ways away. Like I just get the feeling like this is a thing that's like this probably isn't going to have a happy ending all around. It's probably going to get depressing and just not work out the way you'd hope it would. It just feels like it could be the nature of things. We'll ultimately have to wait and see how it all plays out. I'm interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.